All right, let me test my sound out a little bit here. Looks good to me. Transition over here. What are we seeing over here? All right, good. All right, looks like you guys should be able to see me. We are. Hey, Boris, how's it going? We're hanging out, and like most nights, we're not working too hard. I just got done with. I had a whole full day of work where I was setting up some systems, and then I had a. What was I doing with those systems? Oh, just a bunch of Stig stuff, and then I taught a college class, and then I just got back around. I did some more work stuff, and I closed up that stuff. I was doing some rsyslog stuff, and if you guys are interested in seeing some of that, I'll show you like exactly what I was doing, but in a different environment. And then actually, yeah, reading up on DeepSeek R1, interesting test scaling. I haven't played with that at all. I might have to do it. We're gonna do some stuff on Saturday. I know I got asked to show my whole environment. Um, well, so there's a reason it's rsyslog and not something like Loki. So you guys gotta step back for a second and tell you guys about what I do, right? Like I'm a Linux guy, you guys know that. But one of the I don't want to say like I don't. It sounds really weird to say it like this, but my company kind of uses me like a closer. And you say, what does that mean? I come in and I fix problems and I get projects done, right? Like when some other people have designed it, architects from Dell and Nvidia have done things, and I will come in and yeah, I'm closing up on the stuff that they built, but there will be little technical things or whatever that's just gonna grind the project to a halt. And I will use things like, yeah, I will use stuff like rsyslog to get a logging requirement out of the way. I will use I do all kinds of ridiculous, like old, like I'm casting like the old spells of Linux on stuff, and it's kind of silly to say it like that, but that's really like a big part of my job. So I didn't. My point in saying that was I didn't design it. If it's my way, I'm doing all Loki, right? But when you're building a cluster for a government project, any of your FOSS, which is your free and open source stuff that's gonna go in, is gonna affect it's going to affect the like the base software packages. It's going to do all these things, and I can't do that. But our syslog's already on a box. So let me show you guys. I'll show you guys exactly what I mean by this, because I built a lab when I did this a while back. I actually built the lab because of it. So, oh, by the way, guys, see how all my servers have finally been rebooted? We had a power outage here in Prologue land today. So it was too cold for me in my house, so I put a little heater on in my office and I blew the breaker. So there we go. Hey, NFL. Look, we were talking about this, me and some of the other guys that I know some of them have gone off to like some of the other side of cloud stuff, but we were talking about how I still use NFS for stuff when it's very much like static files and things that I want the system to know and pull. I will use NFS for that all the time. Yeah, NFS work. That's the thing. NFS works. It's not as fast as any of your other stuff, but it works, and that's it. Anyways, hold on. Let me pull this up. So I was going to show you guys. So when I originally did this lab, this is like the last lab I think I've made, and I have a goal this year for myself. Oh, I know it's very bright. I have a goal this year for myself where I'm going to make at least one lab a month. So I actually have to get one out this month. But this is one of the last ones I made, and I remember it was when I was working on this project, and it was rsyslog right here. So I'm going to link this to you guys. If anybody wants to do the lab with me, let's do it, right? I mean, see how this works if you've never touched and played with this. Also, we may actually fix my lab because I may have this older way of doing it in here. So let's go look at this, right? So the lab says verify rsyslog is running and set it to listen to forward logs. Your team has determined that they need to centralize logging in your environment. Somebody decided that. You know, this is a security technical implementation guide for government systems. Somebody put this out. Linux developer. If you type !student, you will be one of my students. Over on the Twitch side, if that's what you're asking. Yeah, that's just for anybody that's hanging out. I just do that. I like to keep track of how many people have said that they were hanging out with us. It's for my own amusement. 449 now have typed that command. Sometimes it's the same person, but anyways, in your case, it's just good practice, and your team has been losing remediation time by not being able to see logs off systems until after the systems are back up, like from a power outage or something, right? You don't want your systems. This is what I tell you guys all the time. There's like two things that I use as an example of this often. The first one is you do not want the system to have to come back up for you to get to its logs. That's absolute terrible practice. Maybe that system was compromised. Maybe something shut that system off that's now going to affect the rest of your environment. It's very bad. The other one I always tell you guys is if your systems are if you lose personally identifiable information for your customers, you want to be the one to tell them, don't let them find out from the news, right? So delayed rain, hopefully this stuff's useful to you. Xshunya as well. Crash Systems just use NFS for an Apache PHP VM. Guess because the distro was still supporting PHP 5 and didn't support VirtIO for file sharing. Yeah, NFS is a simple. And also, guys, if you ever do anything up in the cloud, right? Apache has it set where you can do AWS has it set where you can use what's their NFS version? EFS, Elastic File System, is just an NFS under the hood. You just can set up an EFS client. If you don't want to use their EFS client, you can actually connect to it with NFS right in there. And you say, how do you know that, Scott? Because that's how I do it. When I do AWS deploys in the user data, like inside of Terraform in my user data, as my system comes up and because your system doesn't know its IP before it comes up, right? That's one of the limitations of like the user data fields of a AWS EC2 instance. So when it comes up, I have it go and register, and you can do that. You can use their Amazon, they have EFS utils, or you can just do NFS if you want. It literally, the difference I would say is, do you have it baked into your image or not? Because if you don't want to give the 10 seconds that you have to give on boot to get the EFS installed, the EFS package installed, you can use the NFS package. So there's that. Crash Systems, you never have to explain to me why somebody might be still using an older PHP. Trust me. I've worked with dev teams that were all PHP. And you say, really? And I say, yeah. The whole dev team, they use PHP. And you say, like, for their web stuff. And I said, no, they used PHP for everything. They used PHP for their scripts. They used PHP for their automation and their deployment stuff. And you say, who was driving that? Their director was a PHP guy. And he was a very hands-on. He was a very talented coder. I really like that guy. He was really good. But he was a PHP guy. That's what his whole team used. Dude, he did everything in PHP. Even like probably one of the slickest. We had a project one time. I'll go off to. Well, let's do this real quick, and then remind me to tell you about the PHP tool that I saw. He wrote it himself in like a few hours, and it was pretty slick. But anyways, your management has been coming around talking about MTTR and MTTD. You don't know what that means, but you know that getting logs to a central place will help make it better, and management will leave you alone. So you don't have to know all those things, and you don't have to talk like that. But you know that if you can get all your logs to one place, that's better. Verify that our syslog is installed and running on both systems. So we're going to do that. We're going to configure our syslog on the control plane to capture UDP, and the default is 514. That's the default R syslog. You can change it, but there's no real reason to. Then we can verify that we're listening, and then we'll configure our syslog on node 01 to send logs over on UDP, and then we'll verify that it's sending. That's what we're going to do. So, depackage, make sure our syslog is there. Good. Is it running? Good. Also good. It's probably running by default on all of your Linux boxes, most likely. It's not really doing much, but it's always running. And well, okay, when I say it's not doing much, it's probably listening for logging messages locally on your server. But you can change the configuration to catch stuff from other systems, to aggregate them, to do all kinds of stuff. So let's go jump over and make sure node 01 is running. Node 01 is also running an active instance of it. So we've got that, right? Boom. Come down here, and on this box, on our primary box, we're going to set up right here. Actually, all we have to do is uncomment these lines. There's a module load ID or IM UDP, and then we're going to listen to IM UDP as well. Okay, that's a port 514. Now, real quick before I restart this, by the way, just changing a config file, you guys know it doesn't change the service. So let's take that real quick and let's test something. ss-ntulp grep 4514. My system is not listening to UDP on 514. It's not listening to anything on 514. In fact, 514 doesn't come up in any, even in some PID or something like that. It's nothing. PID, like process ID. Got to fix my closed captioning sometimes. All right. Hold on. But so we've got that, and we are going to, on this node, restart the system. So now we're listening. Systemctl restart our syslog. And if we do that, and now we try to listen, we are listening. And who are we listening to? Anybody on IPv4 and anybody, for fun, on IPv6 as well. The system can accept either, and it's listening on both. Okay. Now, oh, there we go. That was my grep. Now we're going to SSH to node 01, and we're going to set up his rsyslog. We're going to hit just Shift G to go to the bottom. I'm going to hit O right here, and we're just going to say, you can go ahead and send anything you want to over to control plane on 514. So put that following line at the bottom, and we're going to restart our syslog, and that's going to start sending traffic over. Hey, Enzo Bear, how's it going? Let's back out real quick of node 01, and then we could go look in syslog right here, and we'll see a bunch of control planes, but there's our node 01 as well. And when you do a control F, you can grep for node 01 in real time as well, and then you can see that it's sending traffic over here as well, right? If we were to not want it to go over there, so that's fine, like throwing everything in one, and I've seen that work well in mid-sized clusters, like 1,200 nodes or so. But what if you got like 10,000 nodes and you're gonna really test this one box on just this one file? This screen would be scrolling so fast you wouldn't even be able to. So what we might do instead here, this is kind of the thing that I think I show in here, is you've enabled it, but now you want to break it out into different places. So you want to send it to each of its own nodes, or to each of its own files. So we're going to create a log filter here on control plane. So we're just going to go into this file, and we're just going to go grab this little block right here. Now, in my older versions of this block, and in some older ones, you used to just be able to say and tilde like that, or it was tilde ampersand. Doesn't matter. Stop is the more correct way to do that now, and it'll also tell you it's been deprecated if you try to use it in most systems. So what is this doing? This is, whoops. I don't know why my thing is going to caps. There we go. All right, let's go back in there real quick. I want to show you guys something. We're defining that the template is going to be going to remote logs at var log, then the host name and messages.log. And then I do this simple little logic. This is like the simplest little thing. Look, if remote host IP, that's a variable that they have as like a template value. So that's like a standard one. You can't just make them up. That's a standard one. Is not equal to me. So if it's anybody other than me, then apply that template to them. By the way, there's another variable, host name, that's used in all of this, where it'll pull the host name out of the values, the logging that's sent in, right? And then it says, and then stop. So what's happened now is if we were to restart our syslog, so systemctl restart our syslog, then what would happen is we would head down here. And now if we tail node 01, there's nothing there yet. It'll take a second, maybe the next few seconds when it finally does populate. Now we're watching just node 01, so only messages that coming out of there are going to come to our system. So this is, hey Killa, how's it going? This is a way to do logging in a cluster. If I don't want to call this like a poor man's logging, let's call this your already built-in logging without using a third-party solution. How's that? And there's a lab on it. I sent you guys the link to the lab. It's free. It's on Killer Coda. And again, sometimes you're in an environment. Oh, did something happen to my? Hold on. Did I lose you guys on Twitch? No, it just didn't refresh. Okay, you guys got me on Twitch. Good. All right. It's like it just redid. Okay, so you guys got me. Oh, let me go back to the story I was going to tell you guys though real quick. So when we were talking about this, and I was talking about guys that used PHP in my company, we had a project, and this would have been in 20. This was 2015 when we did this. So this was pretty early on still. I mean, cloud had been around for a while, but this was still kind of early on in the cloud game. And they asked me, hey, Scott, can you repurpose one of these systems we have, a little bit older, and we're going to use Tesseract. So if you guys have never used Tesseract, Tesseract's kind of an older, but still surprisingly accurate way of just doing, what's it called? Optical character recognition against the file. So if you use Tesseract and you kind of play around with it, you can gather a bunch of information. And in our case, the company I worked for was Caris Life Sciences, right? And they had about 4 million records that were all digital, but had not been run through a process to gather metadata out and get names out, and like data that we needed. So we had 4 million records, and I was going to take an older server that we had and repurpose it, and then we were going to chew through these records. We had them all electronic already. They were already scanned. And we were going to, or they were generated electronically in most cases. We were going to run them through this system that I had and probably take, a few months to kind of chunk through them all and get them all there, right? So what happened? Hold on, real quick. So what happened was, this was back to that PHP thing. That developer, he was actually, it was funny. He was a director on the team. He was just still really good at PHP. He slapped together about a 10-page little, we'd call it like a script, right, to ingest those, run them through Tesseract, kind of validate them a little bit, and then get output. And instead of us, this was actually one of the first big cloud successes that I've seen. Instead of me going and tooling over some old like 4U server that I had hold of, that was probably, if I had to guess back then, like 32 gigs and maybe like, 32 cores and maybe like 128 or 256 gigs of RAM. It was a decent box, right? But it wasn't like some awesome server, and it was going to chew up some stuff. Well, anyways, we decided to throw it over a weekend in the cloud. And in the cloud, the box that we were going to use was about $50 an hour. You can go look right now what like $50 an hour in the cloud is. It's a pretty powerful box, right? We were spending about $50 an hour. And I think when all of those ended up, we staged them all up into an S3 bucket. So 4 million records, X amount of gigs of data, maybe even up in the terabyte range. We staged it all up. We set up that EC2 instance and chewed through all of that stuff with that PHP script. And it took a little under a day. It was over a weekend. It took a little over a day, rather. Sorry. And I think the total cost was about $750 for the company to run it. To run that EC2 instance was $750 or something. Whatever that would be, if you were to take $50 an hour or something, however many hours that would be, and ended up. I mean, it saved us all kinds of time. I mean, it saved us work time. We didn't have to buy anything. It was like just it ran through it all, and again, like, it was kind of a resounding success for us, because then when we were done, we literally just turned off that box, and there was no, there was nothing else we needed to test or know. I mean, we got all the stuff, whatever. Yeah, saved the company a lot of money. Yeah, a lot of money. I mean, it would have been. I mean, that's not many hours of an engineer tooling that thing over to be able to handle all those records, right? Although, I mean, to be fair, my box was already set up, but we were also going to take like probably about a month to churn through all that. So they had, it was a pretty successful little project to do all that. All right. Linux developer said without additional resources and third-party solutions would have used OCR for the win. Can you give me a quick feedback on my LinkedIn off screen? Yeah, Linux, if you send it to me, I could take a look at something if you want. Linux developer. I just don't, where'd you put it? Hold on. Some people were rackifying stuff up in the server. Oh. I hope this doesn't pop up. Yeah, okay, it popped up off screen. Hold on, let me go look at it. What do you want me to review on there, Linux developer? You keep getting buffering on me? Yeah, Gremlin, I just saw the Rackified thing. Hold on. Can I show that on stream here? I don't know if I don't show things unless people tell me they can. Let me check. Home Lab. Sure. All right. Here's a Home Lab thing going on. Little start of a rack. Yeah. I should take a picture of my little home rack here sometime. It's just stuffed in a closet, but it's sideways, and I took the door off the closet. Yeah. No, Linux. What I was asking was, what did you want me to check? What did you want me to check? I saw it. What are you asking about? Did you want me to review like what it? I need more info. What areas for improvement? Well, I don't do much with LinkedIn. I mean, I connect with all my college students on LinkedIn. Looks like you do some software stuff, Rust, Java, Python. What can I solve for you? Let me ask you this: with your LinkedIn, I imagine you also still have some kind of you also have some type of like a CV. What do they call them out in the world? CVs or something. I just always called them resumes, but people call them all these different things nowadays. Go look here. Exshunya, I don't think digits are out for like 3 months, but we'll buy one. I'll get one as soon as they come out. I already got the approval from the wife. Do you have? Oh, here you got another page. Okay. Projects. You got projects. All right. Project sent us over to Git. That looks like it's a little Git page. Yeah, I mean I think it looks good. I think you probably just have to, let's see. Can you emphasize your? See, that's another thing. Like I'm not great at that side of things. The like the doing stuff on the social media side of things. But I mean, I've shown you guys kind of what my resume looks like. I just lead with whatever my strengths are, and then go down from there. Try to keep it under a page. That's kind of my thoughts on that. Has the same info. Yeah, Linux. I think it's for me as far as resume goes. I think it's more about like how it shows. Let me pull this up real quick. I'm gonna show you guys this is my resume. This is my it's my web safe version of my resume. Where's it at? I think it's called Het resume current generic. Yeah, this is my generic one right here. And like, I mean, look, you guys don't have to use my template. You don't have to use my format. Like, I mean, everybody's got different ways of doing it. But I try to show like what I think is pertinent up top, right? Information how to reach me. These are real. Like these are real links here. Just some email. And then I don't care if you guys know my name. I've told you guys that. And then down here, what do I do? How do I do it? Some of my experience. I don't even have Redline on here. Redline was down here, but I don't have Redline. I'm back at Redline. I've since left this insurance where I was the platform engineering lead. And then, I'm a college professor for the last 16 years, but this is only at DeVry. Then you also have the older stuff down here from when I was a instructor down there. And then my education. And my education comes last because I don't lead with my education. I tell you guys all the time, you don't need a master's degree to do the stuff I do. The fact that I have 2 master's degrees is just because I kept going to school. Right? Anyways, this is up in the Discord if anybody needs it. But the point of that is to say that you got to be able to kind of show your stuff. And also, I'm really bad. There's another reason I'm a bad example of any of that stuff is that like the last 8 or 9 jobs that I've gotten were because people reached out to me because they knew me. And that's probably been going on since 2012. So, like, I mean, Meraki. I've never used Meraki. I don't even know what that is, unfortunately. Nope. I can look it up. What is Meraki? Is this Cisco? I have not played with Cisco. Not with this. You guys got to remember my CCNA is like 23 years old now. I got that thing so long ago. No, I've never played with Meraki though. Nope. Haven't done it. Alright, I don't even know what we were trying to do. Oh, we were doing Grafana stuff. How's Ranger doing? Ranger's just laying around downstairs. Alright. Back to this stuff though. Did we actually even get into any of this, or was I just kind of talking the whole time? Oh, thanks for the Killa. Thanks for the resubscription with Prime. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. No ads, right? That's the nice thing about that. No ads. What was I doing? Oh, I was doing this earlier. Oh, I got to do this next time somebody asks me a question. Where's that? Hold on. Oh shoot, is it not gonna? I gotta figure out. So I'm using OBS now. And I need to figure out how to... Hold on. That's annoying. So, I have triggers, right? Like, I have a little... my mouse has a bunch of triggers for stuff that I had in Streamlabs set up. But, apparently, because of the mode that I'm in... Can I switch this mode? I can't do my little funny things that pop up anymore. All right, well, I'll work on that. How's it going, Paul? We're just kind of hanging out. I'm not working too hard. Oh, M4600, you said a team interview for data center technician position. How should I prepare for this? Any advice? When is the position, or when is the interview, M4600, for the data center part? And then what are you doing in the data center? Just racking, stacking, changing out parts and stuff? I would, if we were talking like, it's funny, I actually still do work in data centers. I was just in a data center 2 weeks ago out in Ohio. That's what I was doing up in Dayton, was I was actually configuring stuff in my data center. One of my customers' data centers. And then I was in Austin building stuff. I go to data center stuff. I have a data center near my house that I sometimes hit up too, for NOAA stuff. That's the National Oceanographic Atmospheric, NOAA, NOAA. There you go. All right. Hey, thanks for the Prime Fog Machinist. You guys can use those anywhere, and you choose to use them here. That kind of feels good. But also it keeps you from getting ads for, a whole month, so that's kind of cool. M4600. No, what I would tell you about data center stuff is just you've got to know the security side of things from like safety. So some of the things that are in the security. Let me see if I have them right here. You need to know some of this stuff deals with like human safety and human security. Let me see if I have it right here. I might not have. I might not have them right here. I thought they might have had them like in a real easy way to see it here. Hold on. That's all kind of generic for that. Well, I would tell you for sure know some of the probably they're going to have you know the cabling standards. They're probably going to ask you about those. They're probably going to ask you, well, if you're doing cabling stuff, they're probably going to ask you, how are you going to move equipment around if you're working in a data center. And I would tell you, make sure that you emphasize to them that you're going to be safe about how you move stuff, because safety for you, safety for the equipment. Not even necessarily if you want to think of it like, does a company care about me? Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But I can tell you for sure they don't want you to get hurt on their premise, for many reasons. So they want you to use two-man lifts on boxes that say, Look, when I was in my 20s and I had like a 600-pound deadlift, I would go and pick up a 86-pound box that was all awkward and stuff by myself. I won't do that crap anymore. I'll let a little device pick it up and carry it around. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not doing any of those big crazy lifts anymore because I'm not young, right? But anyways, the point is, like, I would emphasize that kind of stuff if you're doing that. Linux Developer said, is there a way to earn the big book of labs? I would buy it, but no income and food trumps books. Yeah, you got food trumps books. We have it on sale right now on like the Twitch side of things, but like I'm not really pushing the book. I tell people about the book if they want to know about it. Everything in the book, by the way, is right here. Like everything on the book is right here on Killer Coda. The book is just more kind of color to the Killer Coda stuff. So you still have to go in Killer Coda and you still have to do the labs. But doing the labs, oh, that's bright. The Ansible labs and the Linux labs are what are covered in the book. So it's just go in there and do those. Then the book's just like questions about it. It just gives you more, again, like kind of coloring it a little more. All right, where was I at here? I was going to do some stuff here. Oh, I'm not. Hold on. Oh, guys, I am in a screen. We are in our first screen session after the reboot, so we are we're in our streaming window, and then we can make a few other windows. Streaming and streaming too. There we go. Now we got some windows, and we can go. So where I'm normally at in here is SSH over to Werewolf. Oh, I think I normally do this. I'm pretty sure I got a key for that. Hold on. Pretty sure I got a key that I had pushed for that. Apparently not. Maybe I did that for security reasons. We'll see. Yeah, there we go. I don't care about any of that. All right. And then from here, there's our nodes. We were in Rocky 6. Well, everything's reset, so it doesn't really matter. We could check all our nodes to make sure that they're up and healthy since the reboot. Just hit them all with uptime. Let's do that real quick, just because I haven't really checked the setup of the cluster since we had our hard reboot. And then was I talking about something? I forget if I was talking about something else. Data center grade UPS for like 150 pounds. Learned the hard way when I lifted with my yeah, Soja Boy, yeah. And it's all fun and games like in your 20s when it's all like free, but like the older you get, the less that stuff's funny, you know. Like I mean, I lifted when I was young. I lived in a gym in my teens and 20s, but after that, like I'm like I go a little more easy on some of that stuff. So hey, all our nodes are up. That's the time since our power outage right there, 8:34, 8:35. I'm gonna tell you guys. You guys want to hear something funny? So I think this is funny. This is like the biggest face palm ever. So last year, the last time my systems have been off. That's really bright. The last time my systems have been off, I was down in Mexico, and there was a power surge in my house or something when I was in Mexico. It was last year, I think in July. So, was it? No, actually, wait, let me think. Yeah, it was, no, it was longer ago than that. It was a year. It was just over a year ago when it happened. So, sometime in January of last year, maybe even December of 2023, it would have, that is the last time my environment had powered down completely. And, Root guy, I don't know. You just kind of hang out and keep doing it, and then eventually you'll know it all. You guys all know it all like me eventually. No, you don't ever really know all of it. You just kind of know enough. I'm gonna tell you guys something that's about to make that statement about what he just said really funny. about me knowing everything. Guys, I turned my environment back on, and I want to show you guys something. I have all these nodes off, right? All these nodes are off. Somewhere around that power outage and then the system coming back up, this node got forgotten, and I built this node, which ended up being all of our systems. And I've been saying for the last year, most of you guys that have been around have heard me say, I've got three physical boxes in the lab. How many? I mean, you raise your hand if you've heard me say that in the last few weeks. Like, I got 3 physical machines in the lab, this and this and this. Guys, I have a 4th physical machine that I forgot. I thought it got blown away and I had rebuilt it as this. And after this power outage today, I was looking at them and I'm like, what the hell is this one? And I went and I pulled it up and I'm like, this is the one that I thought I rebuilt as this one. I don't go in my rack very often, but I'm like, got a little half rack and I've got some older components in there that I had never pulled out. And so anyways, I was looking for more capacity. Now I got a whole bunch more capacity in our environment because this is not a small server. He's got 128 gigs of RAM and he's got 32 CPU cores, I believe. Yeah. I don't even know. I don't even know how. You might say, how do you lose a server that sits like 6 feet behind you? I don't know. Maybe 10 feet. I don't know how big this room is. But that node has been off for a year. And that power outage brought it back. And then I was looking at it. I'm like, what the hell is this? Anyways, all right. So we got a whole bunch more capacity in the lab. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm insane, I guess. But oh, what were we going to do today? We were going to look at Linux stuff, but we were going to do it kind of through the lens of CompTIA. This is the Linux Plus cert. You can go download their course objectives. Killa OnlyFans. It is not. Yeah, my room stays a little warmer than the rest of the house. Yeah. Although it's very cold in Phoenix right now for me. It was like 62 this morning in my house, and that's quite cold for me. So, well, for what I'm used to. So I did it. This room's a little warmer. It's not that warm though. I mean, like if you're not really doing all that much. Linux developer, you got a new domain? You might have to put in the Discord, and then I can see it. All right. So what do we need to know? We need to understand what's going on in each of these systems. So if we do like an ls-ld on boot, and then maybe we do like a df-h on boot, we can see that in my system is on its own partition. If it wasn't on its own partition, like if I just did a df-h on like opt, and over here it said it's mounted on /root, which is the root of the whole file system, as opposed to /boot, which is mounted off of the root of the file system on its own directory. This we would say opt is mounted on root of the file system. Just real quick, I'm making that observation to say that boot has its own mount point, right? And specifically, it's only about a gig. About a gig here of size. Typically, boot's not very big. Sometimes you'll find like 256 meg boots from older systems. What am I missing over here? And 32 this morning in these. Yeah. It's colder outside than in the houses, but I'm saying my house was quite cold too. You whispered it. Hold on. Nice. Can I show that? No, that's fine. It's fine. When you get it set up, let me know if you might want me to show it. That's cool. I like it. I'm fine with the cold stuff, Killa, because this is the only time that APS owes me money. That's our electricity service out here in Phoenix. Well, there's APS and SRP, and you get stuck in one of them. You can't. It's not like you can choose between them, so it's kind of terrible. Anyways, all right. So what's going on in boot? Well, we can just ls-l in boot to see what's going on in there. And it looks like, if I didn't know much about what was going on, I might find out that there's these config things and there's these init ramfs things. I don't know what those are maybe as I start my studying, but I figure it out. And then I got these VM Linux. So these are my kernels here. And these are my init ramfs as my system boots before it gets onto its actual disk and booting and all the structure. initram FS is where it starts before it kicks over to its root partition. Here's some config information, and then down in Grub 2, there is all the Grub information if your device is booting from Grub, specifically. Yeah, here we go. And this is how our system actually shares. If I were to start this system and boot it up and watch the console come up, I would be able to go see this, menu entry for each of these different items, right? And then down here, as I call those items, it would call this kernel and say this is your root. So after you come up and you do your initram FS and you actually start all your drivers and everything, then that's going to be your root file system. That's where you're going to go find your partition to run everything else from and find all your executables in, right? Here's a crash kernel, and if I have swap running, which you tend to have swap running even if you're not using it, and then some other options that we can set at the command line, right? And you'll use different options for different things. One of my favorite ones is quiet's great, but you should take quiet off if you're troubleshooting systems. Like if you're building systems, quiet is never on. Quiet is one of those things that we go and we turn on when we don't want the people in operations to see all the messages, right? Also, there's other ones that don't get used often unless you're in special environments. So one of the ones that I almost always set in my big clusters is fast boot. You say, what the heck's a fast boot? Well, if you go look it up, fast boot as a kernel option will typically make your system not walk every one of the disks it sees. And you say, why would it not want to go check all the disks? Man, sometimes when you boot up and before your multipath D comes up, in some environments, you can see thousands of disks. You do not want your Linux box to go and start F-disking those and checking those disks. That's insanity, right? So, no, quiet's not the equivalent of booting in UEFI. Quiet just doesn't show all the messages out to the terminal. You get just like a really, really base terminal output that kind of looks more like a D message. So if you've ever been on Linux box and watched it boot, which I'm sure most of you have, you're almost always watching a quiet. Because if you turn quiet off, you get like full debug messages of the system. And by the way, if your system is not booting, you want to see those. You want to know, where was I at? Where was I going to? You may even, this is something I'll do, if I'm booting and, I boot to 5 machines for maybe my test environment and 4 of them come up, but the 5th one doesn't. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to boot that one again and see it in a non-quiet mode. And I'm also going to do that on another node that does start, and I'm going to compare, right? Where's the output? Where's the difference here? Okay. Like one of these things is not like the other. I'm going to compare things. Anyway, so we have that, right? This is that's what's in the boot file system. Boot is going to be there on your system. You have a whole bunch of other ones. They have proc. So CD proc. What's proc? Proc is a place that I tell people all the time, you don't typically interact directly with proc, but almost all of your tools that do things look at the proc directory to find stuff out. So all of these numbers right here are going to be changing. These are all the process IDs, the PIDs of the files that match. So, sorry, they're all files that match the process IDs of them. So this one right here, if I did a PSEF and then like I grep for like system, one of the things I would find is that systemd is the process ID of 1. It's the only one that'll be 1. And he will start many other ones. He will, from systemd, it will start many other ones. So if you ever see a process that was started by 1, you then know that systemctl, systemd started that. And that makes it easier to go troubleshoot, oh, where's this systemd journal D running? Well, I don't know, but I can start with systemd, right? And then I can go do all the normal things I've showed you guys, like systemctl cat, that thing. We can look for the journal. We do all kinds of stuff, right? But my point is, in this directory are things that are happening, and they are really being read by the system. So some of the ones that are very common to look at is, and again, we don't look at them raw. We tend to go look at them with the tools. We have, so you can cat proc meminfo, right? Here's proc meminfo right here. You can cat the file out if you want, and it'll give you all the information right now about the memory usage on the system. But maybe better than that would be something like this, where that's referencing the same exact location. It's just giving it to you in a little, like a little more nice to look at way. Whereas I know what's going on here, and I can show this to somebody that's not a systems person, and they could go, well, there's my total, and there's my use, and there's my free. And if I were to say, the problem is you don't have any memory free, somebody could look at that pretty quickly and go, yeah, he's probably right. I'll trust him, right? Whereas if I send them this, I mean, maybe they'll bust out a calculator and do some math there, but this isn't as useful for most of us as like this, right? Anyway, so the point is you don't typically interact with things in proc, but everything's in proc. So what I mean by that is if I go to 1 right here, and now I'm looking at what systemd is doing and what files it has open. If I where is it at? File, it's not FD. Oh yeah. Here's things that are happening with the files that this is actually using in real time. And these files will be different every time you access them. This is another one of those things where I would tell you, don't go spending a lot of time in this directory directly. Learn how to use your tools, right? Because much more than me going in there and trying to look at stuff might be something like vmstat dash 1.5, and I might just rather sit here like this, and then now I can look at that and know things about how my system is behaving, right? And immediately you're going to say, well, okay, there's memory and there's swap and there's IO and there's system and there's CPU, but I don't know what any of those things mean. And I would say, well, then what you really want to do is maybe spend some man time in vmstat. But this can be a bit dry, right? Like just getting in here like this is a bit dry. So what I would tell you instead is there's people out there that have done a really good job of mapping these for you. And one of the guys, you always got to mention this guy. Like this is the guy to mention if you're ever doing this. It's Brendan Gregg. This guy right here. I'll link his stuff to you. He's the guy. Like he's the guy you mention when you're looking this stuff up, because he's got really good perf tools explanations here that kind of show you if you're trying to figure out what's going on. This is just one of them. He's got a whole bunch of them of how these different tools work and that kind of stuff. Boot processes a ton of code. Kernel boot is function, something like. Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, it's a lot of stuff. But maybe we want to go look at what's going on in our system. So this is a great one to go spend some time with, especially if you're a visual learner and you like to look at, what is actually being shown by the different tools, and what is this eBPF? Oh, I've never even studied eBPF. And then you find out one of our guys has done a couple talks on it. I think there's one up on YouTube that he did as well from our group. So my point in showing all that is we don't tend to interact with proc directly. We end up just kind of we use we know that proc is there. We can interact with it directly. We can pull information from it. Like if a vendor is asking you, hey, can you get the PID and then can you dump me that whole folder? Yeah. I mean, that may be something that needs to happen so that they can do stuff like one big one is like this. Let's say, let's real quick. Let's go psef grep-i for SSH. I know it's running on this box. And SSHD is running as 1247, and it was started by systemd, right? These were the things I was just telling you. Now, I know, without going and looking, but I'm going to look to show you guys, systemctl status SSHD. Now, how much do you want to bet that that's 1247 is the PID? There it is. I didn't check this beforehand. I'm not tricking you guys. But these are the things that you have to remember. I'm always telling you guys, like, you have to find things and figure things out as you're, called late at night and you're figuring stuff out on the system. Anyways, all right, I want to show you guys this. So somebody calls, you're talking to Red Hat and you're like, guys, this SSHD, since we did our patching, it's just terrible, man. It does like 3 connections and then the 4th connection just starts flapping and then it gets kicked and whatever kind of malarkey, whatever kind of garbage is happening in your system, right? I can go to 1247 and I can see what that process is touching. I can go to the stack, and that might not be super useful to me, but to the engineer that develops and works on that, that might be kind of informative. And maybe stat, like what's it actually doing? And then you send off these log numbers. By the way, this is all the stuff that gets grabbed if you ever do like a SOS report on a Red Hat box. It just goes and grabs all this stuff so that they can go trace through and look at all this stuff. They're just going to find, their tools are going to find what was SSH doing when this bullshit was happening. That's what these things do, right? But in here, anyways, my point is, we can see a bunch of stuff that's happening. And again, a big one is the file descriptor. They can see, what's happening with the system. Again, I normally don't interact with it like this. I would do something like LSOF-I port 22 to see what port 22 is doing, or what's touching port 22. Maybe I find some of those same file descriptors. Or what was that PID 1247? I can go look at what SSH is doing in my system right now, like what's going on right now. And that's kind of a thing for you to, all this stuff I show you guys and the stuff that we work through, you got to understand it's not what I do on my day-to-day job. It's when something comes crashing to a halt that I have to go do all these things. So this is another one of those things where it's like, it kind of sounds cliche, but like you have to be ready with your tools. You have to, you just have to be ready. Like you have to be ready in and out of season. You have to be ready in the middle of the night. You have to be ready, like if you want to be an administrator and then eventually move up to some of those other roles, because these are the things that people are going to ask you. All right. Anyway, Sys has a bunch of stuff in it that you can use to affect the running system. So like block, bus, class, dev. We used to have to like rescan the bus, right? So you used to go in and like echo -- So you can go find it if you go Google like rescanning the system bus, and you would go in and you would rescan it. One that I use probably more than others is Sys. Dev. What is it? Sys. It's the one that we use. Oh, I can go find it. Hold on. Where's it at? I don't know why my brain's not firing right now. I normally can remember this, but maybe it's because I worked so long today. Sys. I thought it was. Sys VM. Let's go this one real quick. There it is. That's Proxys. Not just Sys. Anyway, so Sys has other things in it that are similar to that. I'm thinking of Proxys VM drop caches. But anyways, yeah, I was wondering. I was like, where is that? Sys just has things that are kind of useful, but you probably won't, I guess, interact with them too often. How about var? What is var doing? df-h on var. Let's see if it's on its own. It is part of the root file system. In Stigging and CIS compliance, you will tend to move that off, right? That'll be on its own. And var is just files that are transient. They don't sit there very long. You've got logs in here. You've got caching. Caching is where all of your caching is where your DNF and your yum are going to go. I think apt might even use var cache as well. I'm not sure. But just things that aren't going to stay around the system for a long time are the things that are going to pop up in here, right? Var log is in here. But typically, so you guys know, this will be on its own partition. And the reason is because this is one of the types of places that could fill up and could affect other parts of the file system if this fills up, right? So var, that's what var does. Typically, you'll have var log on its own, and typically you'll have like var cache on its own. Other ones, they're all fine. Then user, cd user. User has the main thing I'm in /usr for, or user, is for bin. So you've got binaries for the system. If I were to say like which ls, it's probably in user bin, like you see right there. Like if I were to say like which zcat, that's down in user bin zcat. Sometimes when we have like third-party tools that are still binaries, we'll put them in like user local, and they'll be down in user local bin. See if any are in here. There's none in here. But if I were to like write my own tooling for my organization, I'd probably put it down in user local bin, not just in user bin. And there's a few reasons for that, but the main one for most engineers to know is this. What happens in user bin is kind of a free-for-all of whatever you dump in from your tooling. Like if you're doing a DNF update and it sees fit to blow away over the top of something, it'll do it. But user local bin, that won't happen. Hopefully nothing blows away your stuff. I'm just saying this is a place that's considered safe. Plus, I believe if we check our path, I believe user local bin is always in, well, it's in root's path. Let's see if it's in a user's path. Become the Scott user. It doesn't care if we can go in there. Does he have that path? User local sbin, user bin, user local bin. Yeah, so if I were to put my custom stuff in the organization in there, the user would be able to see it, right? If you want to see that, I'll show you. So I'm here in user local bin, and I just touch, I don't know, some file. .s. Let's just call it some file, and I vi some file, and in there I just say echo. I don't know. In fact, in there I could just do the date command, right? It can just be the date command. I could type, and then chmod 755 some file. And then if I go to the Scott user again, right, nothing up my sleeves, and I say which some file, it'll tell me it's in user local bin. And if I just do some file, it should execute and just give me the date. It's like the silliest thing I can think of, but it shows you guys how the pathing all works, right? And the pathing is it's everything like that is very critical to you if you're going to do this stuff professionally, like where things are getting stuff from. And I could just assume that the user was trying to run some file out of wherever, but I can go as that user and actually see where that's trying to be executed from. So Shizen, hopefully this stuff's useful to you. Thanks for the follow. We are, again, not working too hard, but we're just kind of looking through, I don't know, fundamental stuff. I'm kind of talking through stuff as you guys are hanging out. Hopefully some of you are hanging out with your, notepad or your logsec or Obsidian open, and you're finding things that are interesting to you to go look at and study. Hopefully. If not, I'll be talking about it again sometime, I'm sure. Lib is very similar to var, user in that sense. Dev is specific devices. So let's go to dev. And in here, there will be these mappings of devices. And if I were to do on this box, if I was to do like an LSBLK, I would see these devices that are here, right? And that maps to devices that I should see in here, XVDA, XVDB, CE. Now, none of these are being used in this environment because these are there for you guys to carve up if you do any of our lab work. But let me show you guys something. So then if we CD to dev device, right? Sorry, dev disk. And in dev disk, we've got disk by these different ways that the disk can be identified. So if I do CD to by UUID and I ls, I see just this one and I go, what is that? I do an ls-l on it and I see that it's pointing to, it's the root, root owned, it's the root, owned by root, and its group is owned by root. But here's its UID, right? And that goes to the parent of this directory, XVDA. Well, if I were to go to the parent of this directory and ls for XVDA, that would be that device that was sitting there up there. It's the parent of the parent, right? Well, where are these mappings useful? Well, if I cat etcfs tab, and if I happen to have had a non-tempfs file system here, then the root of this system could be mounted like this. Could be mounted by the UUID. And the way that looks is if I pop back over here, I do a cat etcfs tab, and I see that, well, we're using dev mapper here, CL root to XFS, and then if I do a mount rep-i root, then I would see that root right here, the root file system, is mounted on dev mapper cl-root, and then I can go see a bunch of information about it. Not that it really matters for this because we're not going all the way down into LVM right now, but PVS, VGS, LVS will show me that that CL root is a logical volume right here in the volume group of CL, and then CL is made up of 3 disks: dev xvda with partition 2, dev xvdb, that was a raw disk, and then dev xvdi, which came later and got added into it, right? And that's kind of that. So Soulja Boy, it depends, right? Like, if you go to different distros, you will find it done different ways. In Red Hat style systems, I see it tend to be mapped directly like this. Red Hat style systems. Is that right? I think it's going to depend on the type of system you're using. If you're using like a virtual machine, that could end up being somewhere else, and the mapping really shouldn't change. But if you go to like an Ubuntu box, on Ubuntu, I'm pretty sure a decision was made by someone somewhere. This is going to be bright for a second. I'm pretty sure somebody made this decision somewhere to use the UUID, right? Like if we go right in here, just Killer Code has playgrounds. You guys can just drop into an Ubuntu box, and let's go see. But I don't have any hard recommendation on that, Soulja Boy. I would just tell you, standardize it across your organization, understand why you're doing it, and then I don't know of much. I mean, unless something's switching around. That's the FS tab here, and they're using the label. So if you CD to dev disk and then by label, there is the Cloud IMG root FS, which is mapped back to dev VDA1. If you go up, no, that's just dev VDA1. That's in that directory, right? So it was mapping to him by going up a directory to VDA, which is in dev VDA1. So I use the latter, but people tell me it's a no-no. Yeah, there's not, I mean, I have seen UUIDs fail. I had UUIDs fail probably would have been December. I was working on a project, and we had 2 nodes that were the head nodes of a werewolf cluster, and one of them was booting up, and then the system was arbitrarily grabbing the dev SDA, dev whatever, and those were all different every time. So I locked it to the UUIDs for each of the nodes, which were separate, because we had been pushing configs, and I was like, you guys got to stop pushing configs. They're not the same between the two boxes. They're two physically separate boxes that have logical volume mounts that mount separate, and then that's who's ever the head node gets those, and then we have a Stoneth process that can shoot the other node in the head, right? By the way, will that say it? Oh yeah. That's what Stoneth is. I was surprised that my closed captioning said that. It's STONITH, which stands for what I just said. I don't want it to like say, oh, he tried to do it twice, so then it doesn't do it the second time. Anyways, so that was I just want to show you guys that. All right, so user lib dev Etsy. Etsy is config files. So if you see the Etsy, almost everything in Etsy is just flat files. It's a directory to flat files, or it is a flat file. Almost everything in here is going to be some kind of configuration of the system. These are older configurations of the system. Configuration of Kerberos and configuration of crontab and all the different things that are going on in your system that need to be configured tend to get dropped directly in Etsy, right in the Etsy directory, right? That's what that is. Opt tends to be where we put, oh, by the way, cf-h Etsy. I have never seen Etsy mounted separate from root. Never once. Could you do it? Absolutely. Nobody's going to come in and tell you stop doing that. But you just leave it on root. All right. So anyways, oftentimes I mount opt separate for a bunch of reasons, but -h opt. Opt in this case is on the same one, but over here, oh, there it is right there. Opt is an NFS mount point on my system. And if I grep, if I do a mount grep for opt, I'll see that it is read-write. So we did set it to read-write from the cluster. It used to be read-only, right? Some of our stuff is read-only because you guys can't change it in the environment. All right, so opt is where we put, what do we put in opt? Third-party tools and things that we want to... So third-party tools, these are things that people have put in the logs from the being on our labs for the last, I don't know, 6-7 months I've had the labs open. And we can go to like config, drift. I think this was somebody's project. And people were writing their compare states between whatever was going on in the system. And they were doing like a config drift project. I don't know exactly who was doing this, but somebody was doing it. And then we want to go look at their... Here's their drift check. It takes the role of the config monitor. And then tasks. And we could go look at what it's actually doing across the system if we wanted to, right? So this is like, I don't know, like we were using it for lab stuff, but the point is you could go in there. Opt tends to be third-party tools. That tends to be where we put them, is down on opt. Third-party agents that you're making me put on my Linux boxes, other stuff like that. Bin and sbin are binaries, so they're binaries of stuff that your system would be looking for. Like I echo $path, and I see typically bin is not used directly in our Red Hat type systems anymore. But watch this. If I do an ls-l on bin, I'll see that bin is really just a symlink over to user bin. So, and sbin is the same. So those don't really exist on my system. They're soft links over to /user/bin, /user/bin, and they don't have the slash in front of them because they're relative pathing, where compared to where that's at. So that's them there. Oh, whoops. That's them there. The soft links for bin and sbin, and then lib and lib64 are similar. I do an ls-l on lib in here, ls-l on lib64, which are my packages, right? They're my libraries. That's where you're going to see it. Oh, there, I skipped over lib, but they're libraries that your system uses. And you might say, well, how do I know what libraries are important? There's a whole bunch of libraries. And I go, yeah, well, you've got this tool called LLD. And like, let's say I say which bash, and I see that I'm on user bin bash. And I can do bash dash dash version, and that can help me a little bit to see what version of bash, but I don't really know. I'd have to go look stuff up that was interesting to me there. What if I did this, though? I said LLD, LDD, sorry, LDD. I don't know what's wrong with me. User bin bash. And this will tell me all the libraries that bash needs to work properly. And you say, Sky, how do you know that's true? And I say, well, because we can jail processes, and those processes will not be able to do anything except for access what's in the jail with them. And we can give bash only those things, and then we can see if bash works or if it breaks all over the place. And if you give it those libraries there, bash will continue to work properly. Same thing with, and I'm going to use 3 examples that I use in one of our labs. Which SSH, so then LDD, user bin SSH, a lot more. And then which curl, and then LDD, user bin curl. So if I want to, and there's some overlap here, if I want to take a user and jail their processes down so they can only be touching certain things, this is how I do it. Now, some of you guys might or might not know this. I run a jail in my home here. So I have cd var chroot, and this is the jail that all of you come through that jump into our lab environment. If you ever have been in our lab environment, you've come through this jail right here. And what's going on in this jail right here? Well, if I cd to bin, there's the bastion, the bash, the curl, and the SSH that I just talked about. And if we cd into lib64 for them, there's all those packages. Those packages all map. And you say, how did you do all that? Well, I automated it, right? This is actually an Ansible playbook that does this. If you say, well, where's that Ansible playbook? It's out on my GitHub. This is one of my few things that like isn't just me messing around on GitHub. This is a real thing, and I use this professionally. This a variation of this, anyways. It's called Stream Setup, and it sets up my environment. We use AWX as well, or Tower, if you want to call it. And if you go down into our Bastion role, Bastion deploy, and you go into tasks, this gets kind of wild, but it is set up the user, set up their SSHD config to jail them to var chroot, as you just saw. In this case, we use the streamer user typically, but streamer, and then we copy over. If we're making the chroot jail for a user, then we copy over those things that they need. Whoops. Copy over some binary files of bash, SSH, and curl. Hold on. Then we get down here and we build these lists of their SSH libraries from their LDD that I just showed you. And then the LDD of bin bash and LDD of bin curl. And then we copy over all of their libraries right here. That's where we actually copy the libraries in Ansible. Right? This is an Ansible class, but this is how I do it. The GitHub, you can just ! GitHub if you want to find my GitHub. It's in the Discord as well. But this I actually use this for government projects to build bastions to allow systems to connect and all those kind of things. So, yeah, there's my GitHub right there. Yeah, look, guys, I mostly mess around. I'm a Linux engineer. I'm a platform engineer. I build systems, right? But I tell you guys, since probably about 2018 or so, you've had to start learning GitHub, or you had to start learning Git. If you don't know how to do some of the basic Git commands, and I claim no expertise in it, besides I can pull things down, I can push things, I can review people's code, I can merge stuff in. That's about the extent of what I need to be able to do. But I needed to learn that because gone are the days where they just stuff guys like me, the systems engineers, in a closet and don't talk to us. Most of the time they kind of still do that because they don't want to talk to us, but because nobody knows what we do, right? We're just Linux engineers. We're basically nerds, casting our Linux spells as far as they're concerned. That's what we're doing. But this is stuff that's fun to me and interesting. By the way, on Saturday, we're doing our normal meetup on Saturday, right? We have events coming up, and I have the Prolog meeting on Saturday, 3 p.m. my time. If you're doing it your time, it'll show whatever your time is. And one of the guys asked me, would I map out my home lab environment, just like draw the whole thing out? And I said, yeah, I'll do that. So I'm going to draw out the whole home lab on Saturday for anybody that wants to kind of see it. Um, with the new server that I found. Robodom, did you hear me earlier talking about how I just found a server in my environment? I'll use Excalidraw. You guys ever seen Excalidraw? This is one of the best tools on the web right here. Right here. So here's Excalidraw. One of the best tools. I'll show you why this is one of the best tools on the web right here. I'm going to go, oops, I'm going to grab all this. All garbage, all of it. And then I'm going to share this with you guys. And I'm going to copy this link. I'm going to drop it over here on the YouTube side. Whoops. And then, oh, god damn it. I can't now see, oh, hold on. And then if people on Twitch want to get in there, you have to capture it and then drop it over. But now other people can be in here drawing with me. People can be in the connection. If you're on Twitch side, you got to take it out and go drop it in the browser yourself. But yeah, I'll probably draw it out. You know, it'll be like, here's my P01 Jumpo 1 box. And this box functions as a jump box. And this is where I do all of my work. Right? So yeah, Shoujo Boy, I think that's a fair statement. It's like thinking it's Thursday, but it's actually Friday. I think that's a good way to put it. Oh, I don't know. I don't see anybody else joining, but you can join if you want to. Then watch this. What if I went like this? This is one of my favorite things about this, right? Let's go look at Werewolf. And I'm trying to explain Werewolf to you guys, right? And you're like, all right, Scott, we don't know what this Werewolf thing is. And I'm trying to explain to you guys a concept of what we call startup runtime. So it's... I want to tell you guys about runtime overlays as compared to system overlays, right? And I want you guys to understand this, right, about the overlays. I want you to understand that these are things, and right here, you can actually go to this little AI thing and say text to diagram and just drop it in there. This is pretty cool. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're really bad. But I can take this and I can just drop this in and go, that's pretty cool. You got node or profile, configures an overlay. There's an overlay type of a system overlay and a runtime overlay. System overlays are applied only as the system starts, true. And runtime overlays are applied periodically while the system's running. Look, see, somebody got in here. Good. So, I come over here, pull my system up real quick, and I go back over here. I jump out to just my werewolf box here, and I say tail-f on var log werewolf. And now what you're seeing here is a runtime overlay being pulled down by the Rocky 5 box. 10 seconds ago, you had no idea what any of that meant. But now if you're watching this and you're looking here and you see that a runtime overlay is applied periodically while the system is running, then you could just sit here and think, and you could say, okay, system overlays only got built when the system first booted. Runtime overlays are periodically happening on my system. Does that kind of make sense? So if you knew nothing else, now you know that about Werewolf. And then you can go spin up and figure out other things, and you could do that. But I think that's really cool that it drew that out, and I don't have to draw that out for you guys. Then watch this. I can stop the share on my side, and all of you that are connected, you can still copy. So I stopped being connected to you guys. You guys are still in there working, or you should be able to. But you can save the version that you were on to your local disk. You can make it shareable. You can do all kinds of things. I've never tried this Excalidraw one over here, but you can save it to your disk. You can save it as a shareable link and drop it in our Discord. But one of the things I really like about it is you could also come and there's a VS Code extension for it. So if you guys have ever seen me like show this mapping of this is how my home lab works for all my monitoring, and I've shown you guys how monitoring works. I have a lot of talks on it and stuff. This is my home lab monitoring, how I do it. And this was all drawn in a few minutes in just scratch together real quick in Excalidraw, and it serves for me good enough to show somebody my storage system. I have my ingest, I've got all my storage and my presentation, which are the three primary layers of kind of like modern storage or modern monitoring. The old days of like just Nagios out there being this big monolith doing everything is kind of gone, right? I still have Nagios in my environment, but it's not as much as we don't deploy it as much as we used to, right? And Ganglia and some of those tools that were just they were the whole thing. It's different. Okay, guys, wifey, are you up here? I heard the wife come home. I know she's around somewhere, but I'll probably have to get off of here. Yeah, I think Nagios is a great tool. I still actually run it in the home lab, but I don't really deploy it anymore. I used to deploy it all with Perl. I still have the Perl scripts that deploy it, by the way, too. I've shown them to you guys before, I think, but super easy to use it. Super easy to set it up to monitor everything if you wanted it to. So, all right. What else are we doing here? That's probably it. I was just kind of going through, how do we? Oh, it's bright. How do we go in and start to learn these things and then get our hands on stuff? I only really got down to about the bin and the S bin part, and then home, media, mount, temp, root, and temp. Those are all other ones to know, right? Just kind of learn them as you go. We'll keep doing this. I think some people enjoy this. For some people, this is a little slow, and I get that. But we're not necessarily. Let me think how to say this. I'm not necessarily concerned with just the hobbyist stuff. I mean, we are doing hobby stuff because it's fun and we're building stuff in the home lab and stuff. But I'm more concerned with like getting you guys ready that want to go and do this stuff professionally. You guys that are like, hey, Scott, I'm ready to, not just play with this in the home lab anymore. I want to do this and be a pro at it. And I tell you guys, you can all be pros at this stuff. You do not have to be overly smart. If I sound like I know any of this stuff, it's because I've been doing it for over 20 years, right? I mean, that doesn't make me smart, right? It just means that I've been around a little bit longer. So keep working on this stuff. This is this is kind of our bread and butter around here. We do Linux. We also do a lot of security stuff. So I've been going over security stuff with you guys as well. But yeah, let's end it here. Let's go find somebody to raid if we can. And I'll figure out that thing where for some reason my stuff wasn't working. Oh, you need dev urandom for SSH to work or it won't work. Yeah, if you try to do SSH without dev urandom, it won't work. So that's an important thing to note. All right, let's go raid over to, who would be fun? We'll go raid over to Midnight Simon. Because Midnight Simon's on. And we'll go right over there. He's always a fun time. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with me as you did. And I will talk to some of you guys later on in this week. All right? And take care, and I will see you guys later.
Oh, it's very warm in here.
Hold on, wait.